The next lesson is outcomes of democracy. What is democracy? What are the features of democracy? How is democratic country different from non-democratic country? What are the expectations of people from democracy? Do democracies fulfill the expectations of people? Now let's see what are the features of democracy. Promotes equality among citizens, enhances the dignity of individuals. Number 3, improves the quality of decision making. Number 4, provides a method to resolve conflicts. Number 5, allows room to correct mistakes. These are the 5. That is why 5 points. These are 5 features why we prefer democratic government. So for 3 types of question, like what are the features of democratic country? Why do you prefer democratic government? How is democratic government different from non-democratic government? You can write these answers. So let me explain this. Promotes equality, enhances dignity of individual, constitutional rights, guarantee all that, promising all this. Then improves the quality of decision making. You find the members, the elected members, they sit, then debate and take the decision. And though it takes time, but the decision is good. The good quality of decision is taken after debating for a particular period of time. Then provides method to resolve conflicts. We have judiciary and parliament to resolve our civic problems, or our administrative problems, any conflict we have the procedures to resolve. The next, allows room to correct mistakes. The government, if a ruling party making any mistake and the ruling party is not elected next time, so they realize the mistake and the next time they will not repeat that mistake. So these are the features, or these are the points which make democratic preferable. Now, but do we have all these developments or all these features found in all democratic countries? Even among democratic countries, we find the differences. Okay, now let's see first the differences between democracy and non-democracy. So when you take democracy and non-democracy, I want you to just jot down the points like this. So the first one is ruler is elected. Here ruler is not elected because military ruler or dictator or hereditary king. Then second point is democratic government has constitution. There's no constitution in non-democratic country. Here the elections are held. Here no elections. The next, fundamental rights are enjoyed by citizens in democratic country, whereas here you find no fundamental rights are given. Then decision taking process is slow in democratic country, whereas here it is quick. So this can be asked under 5 marks or 3 marks. If you make a note of these points, it's easy for you to recall. Now, so people expect many features from the democratic government. Now, which is the most basic outcome of democracy? The democratic government should be accountable, responsive and legitimate. So these are the 3 expectations of people from democracy. So here in a democratic country, every citizen has a right to question the process of decision making. Has a right to take part in the decision making. He can examine the process of decision making. So this is called transparency, which we don't find in non-democratic country. So when you are trying to find out the outcome of democracy, it is a right to expect democracy to produce a government that follows procedures and accountable to the people. And the democratic government develops mechanism for citizens to hold the government accountable, and develops mechanism for citizens to take part in decision making. The next point is there should be free, fair elections to be conducted regularly and public debate to be allowed on policies, government policies and legislations. Citizens should have the right to know information about the government and its functioning. What then legitimate? What is legitimate? So legitimate is elected government. It's elected by the people through election following the constitutional methods. So this is the answer for what is meant by accountable, responsive and legitimate government, or which is the most basic outcome of democracy. Explain. Again 3 marks or 5 marks question. So you have to explain what is accountable. Every citizen in a country has a right to take part in the decision making and examine the process of decision making. That is transparency. The democratic government develops mechanisms for citizens to hold the government responsive and mechanism for citizens to take part in the decision making. There should be regular, free, fair elections. People to have freedom to debate on the functioning of policies of the government, and they should be informed about the functioning of government. Then legitimate. It is elected government by the people through election following the constitutional methods. Then we'll stop here. We'll discuss in the we'll discuss the rest of the lesson in part 2. So outcomes of democracy lesson continues. Do we find same kind of development in all democratic countries? No. Some countries you find economically not developed. Some countries still you find social issues also. Now, how is democracy and economic development related? How are they related? So economic development cannot be seen, it is not only depending on democracy. There are other factors which also decide economic development. So what are the other factors that decide economic development, or what are the factors on which economic development depends? Number 1, the population of the country, the size of the population. Number 2, global situation. Number 3, cooperation from other countries. Number 4, economic priorities adopted by the government or the countries. So these are the 4 factors. I'll repeat. The size of the population. Number 2, global situation. Number 3, cooperation from other countries. Number 4, economic priorities adopted by the government. So these factors also influence. It is not, so you cannot expect, if the country is democratic country, then you find the economic development. It is not so. So these are the 4 factors which decide the economic development. So the question can be, does democracy guarantee economic development? Explain or give reason. So you have to write, it does not guarantee, because economic development depends on the other 4 factors, and you have to mention the 4 factors. There. Next, in democratic countries, the goods and opportunities are distributed equally to the people. That's a question. Are they distributed equally to the people? Do you find economic equality in all democratic countries? What do you say? Again, no. So we don't find economic equality in all the countries. Doesn't mean that if country is a democratic country, then you find economic equality. It is not so. So what makes you say no? The reason is a small number of ultra rich enjoy a highly disproportionate share of wealth and income. Not only that, their share in the total income of the country has been increasing. These at the bottom of the society have very little to depend upon. Their incomes have been declining. This is the answer. So you find the poor people find difficult to meet their basic needs like clothing, education, shelter, food, health, etc. So let me repeat the point. The question is, do you find economic equality in all the countries? Do democracies lead to just distribution of goods and opportunities? Is economic growth accompanied by increased inequalities among the people? So for all these questions, the answer is same. You have to understand the questions and write. Is economic growth in democracy accompanied by increased inequalities? Yes, there is increased inequalities also. Clear? But why? The answer is the same. A small number of ultra-rich enjoy a highly disproportionate share of wealth and income. Not only that, their share in the total income of the country has been increasing. Those at the bottom of society have very little to depend upon. Their incomes have been declining. Sometimes they find difficult to meet their basic needs like food, clothing, house, health, education, etc. So for this answer, I'll say, if you remember, rich becomes richer, poor becomes poorer dialogue, you can write. Okay, that one line gives you the answer, but you have to explain it, because it may be asked under 5 marks or it may be asked under 3 marks. So the clue for you is, there is a gap between rich and poor. Rich becomes richer, poor becomes poorer. So here for this, if you remember this picture, because sometimes you get confused, you don't remember the point. So if you remember this picture, for do the goods and opportunities distributed equally, you can write up. Let me continue with in part 3.